Good morning, everyone.
Hi. So Vicky Toff from DSC got it started. I would ask that if you're a guest, in other words, not a staff member or a board member of the DDB, to please sign in the chat so that we know you made it. Thank you so much. I'm in the Lyle Shields room at Brookins to bring this meeting into full compliance with the Open Meetings Act as revised under the emergency order. I will, once everyone is here, I think I would like to put the board packet materials into the chat so that y'all have access to them, but I'll wait admitting guests now. And it looks like all of the board members are here. And other people continue to join the meeting, so I'm going to just keep letting them in. But you can start whenever you're ready.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. And I would like to call this meeting to order. I have actually 9 o'clock on my computer, so we're just exactly on time. And Chandra is going to be taking the staff role. Chandra, would you please do the roll call?
Absolutely. Good morning. Today we have Gail Kennedy.
Present.
Deb Rouge.
Here.
Georgiana Schuster.
Here.
Sue Suter.
Here.
And Robin.
Here. Thank you
We have
very
a
much.
quorum. Yeah.
Zoom instructions. I'm assuming everybody that's on the Zoom meeting is doing okay, and hopefully other people will figure it out. The next item is approval of the agenda, and I would like to make a change in the agenda before we approve it. Under new business, we have successes and other agency information, which is a normal part of our meeting, and I would like to propose that we combine that with citizen input, public participation, which is the very next item after approval of the agenda. The reason I would like to do that is because the majority of this meeting is discussion of applications. And after we review the applications, I don't want to make the agencies stay and have their say after we review the applications. I want the review of the applications to be the majority of the meeting and also the last business item on the meeting. So if the agencies that have information and success are willing to go first, I would like to propose that we have that happen immediately after approval of the agenda.
Does that need a second?
Any agencies here?
You have a lot of agencies here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Approval of the agenda. We have a proposal and a second. I guess we have to do a roll call. Chandra, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Deb Rouge.
Yes.
Georgiana Schuster.
Yes.
Sue Suter.
Yes.
Gail Kennedy.
Yes.
And Robin.
Yes. Okay, so the next item is a combination of citizen input, public participation, and we're going to roll in agency information and successes. So the floor is open for any agency or person that wants to share their successes, their concerns, and their information.
I would share something if I'm not jumping in front of anybody else. This is Becca Ochowski from Community Choices. I just wanted to talk about the Going Home rally, which is happening next Friday, so the 27th. We have two of our Community Choices members who are going to either be speaking live, or we had one of our participants, she chose to record something because she was busy that day to share it. So that's an event that they do every year, and we are really excited to have sort of worked with a couple of the folks who are going to sort of share their perspective on why life in the community is especially important and kind of their story about how that has worked for them. So if you have a couple free hours on the 27th, it should be a really fun event. So I think you can still sign up, but you may not be able to get a t-shirt at this point. That's it.
That's a Zoom, right? Is that a Zoom thing? Yes?
Yes, it's through the Arc of Illinois. I think you can sign up there. I think it's co-sponsored by the Going Home Coalition and maybe the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities. But they partner on a lot of things. So I see some head shaking. So yes, they're in there too. So I imagine they probably all have links to it.
Becca, do you want to put a link in the chat if that's possible for you to do?
Yeah, let me look it up. I'll put it in there for sure.
Okay, thank you. Who else wants to speak?
This is Nicole at DSC from Family Development. I just wanted to talk a little bit about our screenings. Those are still going on, even though virtual, we've been able to reconnect with some daycares, and just want to let everybody know that that service is out there if anybody wants a free developmental screening. So,
Thank you, Nicole. All right, who else?
This is Julie Palermo from the CU Autism Network. And I just wanted to give you an update on our collaboration with Carle Foundation Hospital and the patient, their actual initiative that they're putting together. It launched on April 12th, I think, excuse me, and they have educated 10,000 of their employees, medical and non-medical, on autism, and actually it's like Autism 101 for medical staff and non-medical staff. The sensory gym is being built as we speak at the North Annex, and the patient rooms throughout the organization through Carle are being starting as we speak now as well. I just had a meeting yesterday with the facilities director as well as the head of philanthropy there. And fidget kits, they call them toolkits, are starting to being put together Friday and then continuing early next week. Those are going to be available for any family or individual that goes into the doctor's office. There's going to be signage, and they will able to be get those toolkits. There will be signage as you walk into registration, and if those need be, those will be there. So just a quick update on that.
Julie, could I just ask what the toolkit is composed of?
Well, I can give you more information on Friday of their toolkits. We talked about it. I don't know exactly. They are mimicking ours that we use for the network that we distribute. So they have different levels of toolkits that they have. So the ones that will be distributed as you check in, they're called like silver, gold, and platinum kind of type things. But the silver ones just have in ours, bubbles, stress balls, Play-Doh, Wiki sticks, a fidget spinner. So different items like that would help an individual or a mom, a parent of someone on the spectrum to get through the appointment that would keep their son or daughter,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Julie, I just wanted to say I am on staff at Carle, and I did the autism training, and I was so proud and happy to know CU Autism and to see the very high quality of work that was done there. And I'm also happy to say that Carle made this mandatory for all staff. So it didn't take very long. It was to the point. I think it took me about 10 minutes to do the whole training, but it was very informative, well done, and universally applied. So thank you for that. And I think this is a tremendous community success. So
Agreed.
thank you.
Thank you very much. And that's what we worked with them to provide that education initiative with their education department. So a lot of time,
Well
a lot
done.
of meetings. But thank you. Thank you.
Well, that's a tough act to follow because that was a real class act there. But anybody else have something that they would like to share?
Yeah, this is Mel from PACE. I just want to let everyone know that PACE is starting to partner up with the University of Illinois. We're going to start a group together, and it's going to start a semester long about with the people in PACE that's connected to PACE and working with art and stuff. So we're hoping to share a lot of different kind of art with everyone, and a lot of the volunteers at U of I and our students are gonna partner up, and we're gonna have like different kind of segment of different art with everyone at Pace and stuff. And they're gonna provide the kits and stuff for everyone to pick up at Pace, whoever sign up for that particular session. We're hoping this will start with we're hoping this will be a semester long. So not everyone have to come for a certain part of that lesson or something. It's whatever they're interested in. So we're starting that, and we're starting a signage for that one. So anyone that's interested, that's connected with Pace, are able to sign up and be able to participate in that program.
Okay, thank you. Who else?
I can go. Hillary Frank, I'm with Epic, based out of Peoria. We have a host homes program, which provides natural living options for adults with disabilities. And so in a host home, people in the community have the opportunity to open up their home to support up to 2 individuals. And so this might be a good option for someone who's maybe in a nursing home or a group home, and that might not be the best setting for them. And they might thrive for more personalized support and living more independently. So their provider would be there to provide as much or as little assistance as that person wants and needs. And then providers are also reimbursed for their services, so they can earn career or supplemental income if they want to continue working or volunteering, whatever they're currently doing. So right now we're in 12 different counties, and we're continuing to expand. We're not currently in Champaign County yet, but I'm kind of learning more about the region. So I thought this would be a good resource to learn more. We do host a monthly lunch and learn. Our next one is on May 13th at noon, if anybody wants to learn more about the program and how someone can either become a provider or how someone with a disability can be placed in a host home.
Thank you, Hillary. Do you want to put your information in the chat? People can pick it up. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, who else? Okay, well, if anybody has anything later in the meeting that they forgot to say, raise your hand in the chat and we will recognize you and give you an opportunity. So the next item is chairperson's comments. I'm going to keep them very brief. I just want to say this meeting and the meeting next week, which is a study session, this is a regular decision-making meeting, so we have our regular business in addition to the big agenda item of discussing the grant applications. The next meeting next week will be a study session, so we don't have to do any business. We're just doing a discussion of grant applications. I anticipated that this meeting would be a 2-hour meeting, and next week may also be a 2-hour meeting. If it doesn't go that long, that's fine. But I think 2 hours is about the limit that most of us can handle on Zoom. So that's why I'm going to try to limit it to that. There is a lot of things that can be discussed in relation to the grant applications, and this is the first time that this particular board has used this method of reviewing the grant applications with a primary reviewer and a secondary reviewer. I don't want to be seen as a very strict person on time, but I do want to be a little bit cognizant to time. I, in general, think we can allocate about 5 minutes per application. We had 20 applications, we're down to 19. So we may be able to allocate a little bit more time. Obviously, some applications are more complicated and need more discussion than others. Some applications may take less than 5 minutes, and some applications may very well take more. So that's okay. I'm not going to be horribly strict on the time, but just kind of keep aware of it and have that as an expectation so that we can focus our discussion. That being said, this is the good opportunity for board members to ask direct questions of staff at the various agencies. So if there's something in the application that is not clear or that needs more discussion or information, this is a very good time to do that. And that might take a little bit more than 5 minutes. So I'll just finish with that. And I think the order that we'll do the discussions is the order that the applications are in our board packet, which is, I had the page up, but I'll get the page up again. So we'll do them in order. What page is that, Lynn? Do you have that handy? I'm not sure which page it is. Oh, here it is. It's page 9 in our board packet. And that's my comments. I want to thank everybody for doing the work of reviewing and thank the staff for the large amount of work behind the scenes that we may not be as cognizant of as we should, and thank the agencies for all the work that they've done in preparing these applications. Lynn, it's on to you.
Thank you for setting the stage for the biggest business of the year, really. The review of applications, does take the most time, and it's important to everyone. So I'm glad that so many people came to represent their work. I wanted to share, and I did put into the chat, but it was a while ago, and some people left the meeting and came back, so they may not have access to it, but I did put a link to the board packet, which is online. And I also put a link to the addendum, which did not go out in the mail because we just did it yesterday. And that is an announcement from CU Able withdrawing their application. That's critically important to this meeting. That's the first application that was to be reviewed. And then the second bit is corrections of staff errors in the program summaries. I want to also share that we've gotten a lot of feedback from agencies that was outside of that category. Not corrections of errors that we've made, but elaboration, clarification, really good material. So I think what we would like to do is if the board awards that particular agency a contract for that program, then in June, we'll give them an opportunity to strengthen the application forms by adding the clarifications that they've sent us, which are very, it's good stuff. And if not, then encourage them to use that next year in the applications for PY23. There were a couple things that came up a lot that we shouldn't worry about at all. One is the eligibility questionnaire. Not everybody, but many agencies haven't filled out an eligibility questionnaire for 10 years. And a lot of things have changed in their organizations. And this has led to some compliance problems and makes it very hard for us as staff to keep track of what's going on. So we're going to try to figure out sometime before February how to offer that, the revised questionnaire to all the agencies to make sure that we know where you're at and that you know what we're looking for. One example is that there's a method of accounting that we need everybody to be using, and some people have answered the question yes, no, or other, not understanding this is a rule. So we want to change the question so that they're really clear and make sure that we know what's going on with everybody. The other thing is the issue of selecting a current year or a PY22 priority. Some of the applications have the priority from last year, and we looked into this and found that on the system agencies did have the opportunity to keep their last year priority and not choose one of the new priorities. So that's something that we'll also help to solve, and Kim's already fixed a few of those. So really, other than that, I don't have anything to share that's as important as what you're about to do. So I'm going to mute myself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Lynn. And what I understood you to say is these two concerns that agencies have, you're telling them not to worry. Staff will work with them to resolve those issues, and the board should not worry about them.
Yeah, it's really something we need to take care of, and at least by February. But we can fix the priorities right now. Kim's already been working on that with some. So those are not meant to point out deficiencies. Those are just things that we need to get updated because they cause our systems not to work. So,
Okay, thank you very much for that. So we'll look forward to that in February of 2022. Okay, approval of the last month's board minutes. This is an action item. I'll take a motion.
I move that we approve the last month's board minutes. This is Georgiana.
Second.
Second.
Gail.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion about the minutes? Hearing none, let's go to roll call vote. Chandra, please.
Georgiana Schuster,
Yes.
Sue Suter,
Yes.
Gail Kennedy,
Yes.
Deb Bruce,
Yes,
and Robin.
Yes.
Just for clarification, who made the second in that?
It looked like Gail Kennedy. There were
Okay.
two people
Yeah.
almost simultaneously.
Okay, thanks.
I think Gail beat him out by about a microsecond.
Thank you.
The next item is the expenditure list. And this is also an action item, so I will entertain a motion to approve.
motion to approve is presented. This is Deb.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion about the expenditure list? Hearing none, Chandra, would you please call the roll?
Sue Suter,
Yes.
Gail Kennedy,
Yes.
Deb Bruce,
Yes,
Georgiana Schuster,
Yes.
and Robin.
Yes. All right, those are our action items. So the rest of the meeting is really going to be dedicated to discussion of the grant applications from the agencies. And we will start as on page 9. It looks like we have been very efficient with our time so far. So we've got really at least an hour and a half today if we decide to do a 2-hour meeting. I also would entertain the idea that if we need a break at some point, if people would like to have a break, let me know. We can do that, or we can finish our meeting a little early, or we can get more work done today and have less to do next week, or have more open discussion next week. So the first item is CU Able. And I am the primary reviewer for that. And I am very sad to say that they have withdrawn their application because I think this is a really valuable grassroots organization, and they've obviously been working very hard and struggling in this time of COVID and done a fabulous job. And they're withdrawing their application for this year, but I would encourage them, if there's anybody listening to this call, to hang in there and do what you need to do to take care of yourselves. And we'd be open for applications next year. Kim, any more comments about that? Or Gail, any more comments about that?
I'll just briefly say that they did tell me they did plan to apply again for program year 2023. So keeping my fingers crossed for that.
Okay, and we just want to thank them for their really excellent work. Very grassroots. Okay, the next one is the CU Autism Network, which we have heard a little bit about. And Gail, you're primary on that, and Deb, you're secondary. So Gail, you want to go first?
I guess. So this is a application that was new last year. So 2021 was the first year of funding. So we have, some information from the first 2 quarters about about this. I'm sorry, I'm kind of fumbling because I'm not really sure how I'm going to approach this or what I'm going to do. So in reading through the application here, one of the things I noticed, but I was wondering about is, let me see, that there is a fair increase in the change in funding from the current year 2021 funding, which was $15,000, and the request for the upcoming year, which is $38,000. It looks like with the application, application from last year, there was some money left over, if I'm reading this right, that there was an $8,000 surplus from what we gave last year, which makes me wonder about the cost for this year and the increase in this. It also, I guess to kind of sum up, it does seem that this is it's unclear exactly why that increase will be needed. It is a program that I think, in what they're trying to do and the services that they're providing to the community and support, is highly valuable. I'm just really not sure what the reason is for the increase that we're seeing here in this. So I think I'll start off with just saying that.
So Gail, I'm sorry. The $8,000 surplus is in the budget, it's not excess revenue that is owed back from this year, but it's budgeted as an excess. So, we would wonder what that, we would prefer to see balanced budgets because we're trying to fund services, not, fund balance. That type of.
Okay, all right.
So that, I think that's a question for the future, like, what is that a result of an error in the financial forms, or is it intended to be a budget surplus? So, because we would want to correct that if it was meant to be a budget surplus.
So do I
we wanna
answer
ask-
now?
Yeah, do you want to ask that question to the agency?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, so it is an error in the actual budget, the grant application. I did not add, so we did not have a surplus. I did not add when we were doing, when I put in the numbers for the agency program and the CCD, the board, I didn't add the actual grant allotted to our, so, I thought it was just the network itself. I didn't add, so there's not a surplus. So it's an actual just grant number errors when I applied. So, and I submitted the draft revisions, but I thought I did it incorrectly. So to Lynn and Kim and everything. So, hopefully we will make those corrections when after this, they open up the site, so that won't pose as a.
Yeah, we won't open the site until awards are made. So when there's an error in the financial presentation, like that leads us to possibly recommend a different amount than requested.
Correct, and that I didn't want that to happen on the. Right, so it was my error in when I applied, when we were, putting the numbers in, the total agency's expenses, the total program. I thought agency was just us and I didn't add the program numbers to that. So it's showing that deficiency. So I apologize for that.
Could I just ask, so are you saying then, Julie, that you, that error resulted in an incorrect ask amount of funding, or is CUAN asking for $38,000?
We are asking for $38,000. It's just showing in our financial forms that we have a surplus, a surplus of $8,279.
Okay.
So it doesn't take away from the amount asked from the board. It's just the numbers were computed wrong during the application process on my end.
I just would like to say that I agree with Gail. I really see a lot of value in this programming, the way that you are so family focused and individual focused, and the events that you help sponsor and the programs truly have an educational nature and a real quality of life nature to them, which I really appreciate. I was wondering if you could provide some clarity as to, I'm not seeing a real answers to what you plan to do with the extra money for that large increase, since it's about 153% increases, I think is what we're seeing.
Correct, yes. So with this, because of, hopefully it will open up with our projection with COVID, we will be able to do the walk in 2022. That was one of the things that wasn't in the initial from last year's budget. Also, we would like to do 2 conferences and bring those to the CU community. One is bringing Temple Grandin here, and then holding an autism more or less conference with her. We have done that in the past, so it would mimic something like that. As well as zones of regulation, and those are utilized in the autism community, also with the occupational therapy community, and the school districts partnering with them and educating new staff and updating current staff on things that with that zones of regulation. So as well as there was funding for PPE, and the compilation was put in there that wasn't in the previous application, which I budgeted too low for that because the estimate came in higher than we thought, but we'll deal with that when that time comes for that. I'm trying to think what else in the and I think it was the events.
Tell me, I'm sorry, what is zones of regulation? What does that mean?
So zones of regulation is my son uses it it's
sensory regulation?
Well, it's more, yes, it's more or less their emotions. So you
Okay.
let them know, if you're in the green zone or, going up to the orange zone and how to regulate themselves. So it's more of a teaching of a self-regulation kind of and communication strategy of emotions.
Thank you. I was thinking that you had some kind of government regulation that was being imposed on you now. Okay.
Yeah.
I was totally in another place. Thank you.
And Julie, this is something you mentioned, but this is more a question, I think, for Lynn Canfield. What is financial compilation expense?
So agencies are required to have an independent CPA firm perform either an audit if they have 300,000 or more revenue total budget, or a financial review, which is between 300,000 and I think 30, or a compilation. So and we also allow some of this fund to be used to pay for that product. So I think if you're going over the 30,000, you're going to need a financial review instead of a compilation. So that's another reason to consider the total amount. You know, if there's no other revenue for the organization, but I just looked at the form and I forgot what I saw, sorry. But anyway, yeah, those are the various levels. Compilation doesn't give the same assurances that an audit does, but for a very small organization, it's more appropriate and it's more cost effective.
Thank you.
And the other was a $4,500 request line item in the budget narrative for the sensory family events. So we didn't have that last cycle due to COVID. So we reallocated, but this year we're doing the different events that will be Lights Up, Sounds Down, Sensory Swim, the Halloween event, the Christmas event, things like that will be throughout the year.
We hope so.
I do too.
So this is a point of information for Kim and Lynn that I need clarified. The current grant request is for $38,000. This board either says yay or nay to this grant, or is that negotiable, and how is that handled process-wise?
Well, we will bring you some recommendations in May. And what we have been doing is presenting the recommendations, one agency program at a time for you to discuss. If you don't like our recommendation, you can change it during that May meeting, but we haven't prepared that for you today.
Okay, so is the amount either $38,000, yes or no, or is it possible to give them a different amount than the 38,000?
I think that's been a tradition when there's not enough money to fund programs that we would recommend, and then the board will award slightly less or to hold it for another year. It's hard to say no because you know that there are people on the other side of these papers and that their lives are affected, and sometimes even a 5% reduction from what's requested means something, but that's very typical that we would give you a recommendation for a slightly lower amount, but hopefully we would also have a rationale for that.
So my understanding is the dollar amount is not specifically yes or no discussion today, although we can discuss it. The decision about that will actually occur in May. So the actual dollar amount will happen at the May meeting.
But I must say it's very helpful to us to hear what you all think about these programs. So whether now or next week or in the interim, it helps us a lot with designing recommendations that you're likely to favor.
Okay, so we are now at almost 15 minutes on this one program. And I think this is time that is well spent because we're also kind of figuring out our process as to how we're dealing with this. Also, this is a local program, very grassroots. They're not asking for a huge amount of money, but they are asking for an increase in the amount of money from previous years. So it's worthwhile getting the clarification from the agency as to how they're going to be using that money. Does the group feel satisfied with this discussion? Any questions about CU autism that we need to continue discussing, or any feedback about this discussion from the group, please?
I think for my purpose as the person who was supposed to lead this, my questions have been answered. It was very useful to have the representation of the group of the CU Autism Network being here and being able to answer those questions. So I am ready to move on for what that's worth.
Okay, Deb, do you have any comments?
No, nothing else. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else on the board have any comments about either CU autism or the process of this discussion? Okay, then thank you very much for that. And we will move on to the next, which is Piatt County Mental Health Center VOC programming support, which is a brand new program, brand new request. And Deb, you are the primary on that.
Okay, thank you. This particular program is related to job development for Champaign County residents who spend their day hours in Piatt County, mainly because they do not have access to day programming of any sort really in Champaign County. The request is for transportation primarily and fuel costs. And it is requested for assisting these individuals in building skills to obtain employment. So there's also some, I guess it's for the transportation, but the focus is on resume building, grooming, social skills, and interviewing for jobs. I have a lot of questions about this. I would sure love to find a way. I think there's a lot of worth in this program. I'd sure love to find a way to support this Piatt County ask as well as the other one. I have questions primarily about the risk of Medicaid supplementation in this particular instance, which I wish we didn't ever have to use those two words, because it's our funding, the rates are so low. And supposedly if these individuals are Medicaid waivered, or a percentage of them are, their transportation costs are supposed to be bundled in with their overall Medicaid waiver funding, which is just so unfortunate and really ridiculous. So I have a question about that, how we could go about making this a viable program that provides accountability to Champaign County taxpayers, both from the standpoint of the risk of Medicaid supplementation and also not understanding who's going to own the vehicle or vehicles that are being requested. In the past, I believe this board has purchased group homes and buildings and titled them out to agency providers, to agencies. And to me, that's really not an accountable, that's not a really good way of providing accountability to Champaign County taxpayers, because there's always a risk of program failure, closing up shop, and then the taxpayers of Champaign County no longer own that asset. So I would love to see how we can work with Piatt County to make this happen for the individuals in this programming if all the pieces fit together. So there are some questions that the reviewer asked about program participants. Are these people enrolled in funds? I think it's really important for us to understand that. And I also think it's really, really important to understand if they already have waiver funding. Another question, I was reading on the back here on page 2 of 2, the coordinated system that the vocational employment services are also offered at DSC, attempted transportation agreements in the past with C-carts. What is C-carts? Does anybody know?
That's a rural transportation. I've seen their bus around.
Okay, I see the Piatt County bus transporting people, but I've never really paid attention to the C-carts. I guess maybe I don't live in an area where they come through. So
well, I've seen a small bus. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
It's about the limit of my knowledge of it as well. I wish I could add more, but.
Okay. Georgiana, did you want to add anything to Deb's?
Well, just to add to her same concerns, it's Champaign County money going for Champaign County residents, which is appropriate, but why is it going to Piatt County? I just don't understand why Champaign County can't provide this service that Piatt County is providing. That's my
Is
question.
there someone who can address that in a, answer our question? Someone present who can answer why are these Champaign County residents going to Piatt County? Just point of information.
I don't know if it's appropriate for me to speak to this right now or not. Are you asking anybody?
Anybody, anybody.
Okay. So I think there's a couple of different things here. You know, DSC does have waiting lists for services. I mean, capacity is an issue. I mean, staff resources, space, funding, you know, there's lots of elements that go into your ability to address the needs for everybody on a waiting list. We've always known in Champaign County and really anywhere that the need always exceeds resources. So we do have people on the waiting list. We do draw from, you know, we talk to people and invite people from the waiting list in for services as people exit the program, or our ability to expand services in specific locations or meet the needs of a person. It depends on what the person is requesting, what level of support is available. So there's a whole host of issues to be considered, or you know, things to be considered as we work to serve as many people as possible. You know, we have adjusted and done kind of a menu of services, not assuming that everybody wants full-time service. So that's allowed us to serve more people, you know, than those that are just looking for full-time day services. As we do have a number of people that are attending Piatt County that are on our waiting list, that we would, you know, it would behoove us to reach out to them, obviously, and ask, you know, you at one point wanted our services. I know your needs are currently being met. Are you interested still in DSC services? So those conversations happen. We don't assume that they never want to come to DSC just because their needs are being met. So I think that outreach can happen regardless of what services are happening. But, you know, to some degree, they were filling a gap in service. And, you know, that's not easy to say. We would like to be the service provider for everybody that needs something, but we also know that the resources are not always there to support the needs of every single person. So do we revisit even if somebody's attending Piatt County? Absolutely. So when we do have availability of service and people that are on waiting list and have reached out to us or expressed an interest or desire to get DSC services, we would not assume that they've changed their mind. We would outreach and they would have the option. So part of it is choice.
Okay,
so I hope
thank
that's
you.
helpful.
That is helpful. Is anybody from Piatt County on this call?
Yes, there's two of us. This is Amy Dressback, and I'm the Director of Developmental Services here, and then Tony Kirkman, the Executive Director, is also on the call. Thank you for allowing us to attend this meeting, and you know, our first time we'll try to answer all the questions that you might have. With respect to Piatt County serving Champaign County, I think that's a couple of reasons. One, you know, has already been stated. The other one is that, you know, we get referrals. We work with agencies in Champaign that actually send the referrals to our agency. You know, Regional Planning Commission sends referrals for vocational to us. Also, the Division of Rehabilitative Services sends referrals to us. We've gotten referrals through speaking at the U of I Education Department, Atlas, which is in Mahomet. I also attend the Champaign Transition Committee meetings. So I think some of the referrals come through that. I think it's also important to note that some of the referrals that we have also participated in vocational services in Champaign. So they have participate in those programs prior to coming to Piatt County.
Okay, thank you. So just another point of information, the grant that is being requested is mostly for transportation services. Is that correct?
Yes.
Seems that way.
Okay. All
And
right.
Ian, I have a question.
Go ahead, Sue.
So per what Deb said, the request is for the board to purchase a bus and the fuel needed.
I think the request is for transportation, creating at least the fuel and the transportation cost. One of our biggest hurdles right now, is I'm sure all providers are talking about, is transportation with the COVID mitigation steps that are in place. And so our current provider here in the community, which you've already alluded to in Piatran, has very limited routes at this point. And so that's why we were trying to reach out to Champaign providers to see if we could reduce the amount of cost for that. But we still have a lot of Champaign residents that we're serving to get them not only back and forth for their employment and for the job coaching, but just even for job development skills of going on interviews and resume building. And so that is some of the reason for the transportation costs, is so that we can be able to transport these individuals safely with their job coach to and from job sites.
Okay, thank you for that.
And with the most recent, we were going into Champaign to meet a woman that resided in Champaign to do job development. So we were, the transportation back and forth to go and do that too.
So did the question answered about who are you wanting to buy a vehicle, and who would it be titled in the name of? Who would own the vehicle? Is that?
I don't know if that would be a request on our end. I mean, I guess it's just at what liability the division would feel on that, because who would hold the liability insurance, and I just think, again, as an administrator, I always think of the worst case scenario, and if there's an event of an accident, does that go on our insurance, on your insurance? And it's a very valid question of making sure that there is an accountability of tax revenue being generated from Champaign County staying within Champaign. I totally get that. And I think that we can write some reporting to show some good fiscal accountability that vehicle usage would remain in only Champaign County usage.
Lynn, unmute yourself.
I know that Sue Suter also had a question, so I can hold my comment, but I want to comment on this question.
Well, would you let Lynn comment first?
Yes.
Okay, Lynn, go ahead.
So when we first got this pair of applications, Kim and I were talking about there are a few like structural issues that need to be dealt with if we were going to fund this, and there is a structure that we could use if this was acceptable to everyone, and it might be that we need to have a contract negotiation discussion with you all and work some of this out in details. But one thing that is possible is you buy your own vehicle and then report to us who's being served, and then we reimburse you for the payments on the vehicle. There's a structure in place like that in a different county. So I mean, we don't do a lot of capital improvement or capital projects, but that's one way to do it. Kind of you own the vehicle, we help you pay for it if you're serving Champaign County residents, and we would determine that every month. So that's just one possibility. There were a lot of other ideas about how to deal with this. It is very important that Champaign County residents have the services that they want and need. So I think that we could find a way there. Anyway, I'm sorry, I should stop and let Sue ask the
No, I think that was very valuable, Lynn. Thank you. Sue, did you have a question follow up?
No, that was very valuable. I also wondered, is there any way we can pay Pyatt, who does the Pyatt who does the transportation, that we would pay them more money to provide that?
They currently they don't have the routes available.
Okay.
Because they don't have those routes. I mean, they have some, but they're set. So there's really, I mean, that's one of our big issues is we know they go into Champaign County in the morning, and then they come here, and we know they go in the afternoon about 2 o'clock. But as far as providing, I guess, more opportunities for employment throughout the day, they don't have the capacity to assist us with that.
Deb.
So I guess my question is tangential to Sue's. If it isn't feasible for Pyatt to pick up the transportation routes that you all would need, what was your thinking in the development of this application, other than the purchase of a vehicle? Are there other contractors who you would foresee, or other modes of acquiring this needed routing and service other than the purchase of a vehicle?
Currently,
is that something that you had thought about during the development and had a specific idea, or you were just kind of trying to figure all of that out in the process?
It's a process for us, but right now what we're currently doing is our job coaches and job developers are providing that transportation. If something comes available, they provide the transportation to the individual.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I think this was a very valuable discussion, and thank you to our colleagues in Pyatt County for your excellent work with your people that you're serving, including people from Champaign County. I want to thank you for that, and thank you for thinking outside the box. We just need to understand what's going on, and hopefully we will understand more as time goes forward. Are we ready to move on to the next?
And
yes,
I just think that per this conversation, we could ask Lynn and Kim to maybe look at some options that we talked about today, like the one that Lynn described, that we don't purchase the vehicle, but we pay for the individuals from our county. And just that staff could give us some options other than buying a bus or including buying a bus, whatever.
Okay. Lynn and Kim, does that sound reasonable? We seem to be frozen.
Sorry, I'm trying to keep myself muted because there's a lot going on in here, but we can do that if we are not ready with a recommendation for funding during your May meeting. We could, I mean, that doesn't mean it wouldn't be funded at some point. I appreciate that Pyatt is using our application system and our allocation schedule, but we could, in our recommendations, we could make a suggestion that this be developed and come back to you. But
okay, thank you.
We'll try to do it we'll try to do it on time. We'll see what we can come.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. All right, I'm going to say let's move on. And I was overly optimistic about how long it was going to take to do these things, obviously. The next one is Georgiana. It's CCRPC Community Services. And this is one of our larger grants. Georgiana, and Sue is back up.
Yeah. I have some questions, but I wanted to maybe just say out loud what I think this is for. This is a renewal of the same amount that was asked for last year. And it is for the purpose of screening people for the PUNS list, for the purpose of providing person-centered planning, conflict-free person-centered planning for the people who are screened, and then once they are screened, if they're eligible for the PUNS list, they are put on the PUNS list, but provided services while they are waiting on the PUNS list, if I have this correctly. And the services that they are referred to are CCDDB funded services, providers that CCDDB funds. So if I have that right, then I'll come across with a couple of my questions here. Under the part that is referring to program performance measures, it states that within 5 days from referral, 95% of those referred will be assessed. Does that mean assessed for the PUNS list?
Hi, this is Katie Harmon here from Regional Planning Commission. So it depends on what service. There's essentially 3 components of this program. You spoke on most of them, but just to clarify, so part of it is individuals who are registering on PUNS, we have them complete a preference assessment to gather data about services that they're looking for, things in the community that they'd like to do, among several other things. And then we provide the DD board with feedback from that survey annually. And we can update that as needed if we want to collect additional information. So that's outside of kind of the normal duties of what a case manager is doing, registering people on PUNS. Also, we provide case management and the person-centered planning. So we meet with people annually to complete the person-centered plan and then meet with them at least quarterly to kind of check in. We do provide mainly referrals to services that are funded through the DDB, but I think it's important to note that we'll do case management outside of that. So if somebody needs assistance applying for SNAP benefits or registering for housing on the Housing Authority wait list, it can be outside of DD services. So really connecting to any community services that might benefit them. And then the third component is the transition consultant services. So our 2 part-time transition consultants work really closely with Champaign County high schools to attend IEP meetings, meet with families and students to talk about transition from essentially, secondary education into adult DD services and what might be available to them. So those are the 3 main components. So as far as the time for referral, that is, yes, our goal. So whether it's somebody that contacts us like, hey, we heard about transition consultant services, we'd like to speak to one of your transition consultants. Yes, our goal would be to meet with them, see if they're on PUNS, and connect with them within 5 business days. And then other referrals we get from agencies, whether that's PACE or DSC, Community Choices. Our goal then would be to make contact and make sure that they're eligible within those 5 days. That's not always feasible, but that is our goal, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And so then to move on to my next question, you're not asking for any increase in funding, and you have stated that you predict you'll have 440 people to serve in that program year 22. Where did that, how do you predict? That's a big question, but how do you predict how many people you'll have?
So what I did is analyze the data from the first 2 quarters of this fiscal year, and then kind of based predictions on how many people we would serve in each of the kind of program components of this entire grant. And that's how I based that on. So looking at our numbers that we submitted with our quarterly reports for quarter 1 and 2 for FY21, this current year.
You show that so far in the first 2 quarters in 2021, you have served 339 people. Is that?
That seems right. Yep.
That's what I'm looking at here. I know you probably have 3rd quarter figures also by now. But anyhow, I'm kind of financially oriented, and I'm wondering about the amount that you're asking for is exactly the same as last year's. And so I just wonder if there's no anticipation of increased need or increased need for personnel, increased cost for occupancy, because those are personnel and occupancy are your big budget items. And so just, I don't know, I guess I'm just wondering, where are you just kind of hoping for the best with your $311,000 request?
So I think to answer that, the number of people that we're serving through the person-centered planning and case management component of this program is directly correlated to how many adults are receiving services through DDB funded organizations. So the personnel that we hire is based on that. So to answer your question, if there was an increase of capacity that the funded agencies could serve more people, and therefore there would be a need for more people to be connected with us to do the person-centered planning, then yes. So it's kind of, I guess it's based on that. And so that's what we, as far as numbers and personnel, kept it the same for this year. But I guess in the future, if there was a large increase in capacity of new people coming into services, yeah, that's something that we would need to look at if the board wanted to support this program and continue to offer the person-centered planning services with our agency.
And because I'm a newbie here and don't understand the whole history of things, if the board said, no, we're not going to fund you anymore, where would your funding come from? Do you have any other resources for funding?
So what that would mean is that we wouldn't be working with individuals who are funded by the DDB, who are waiting on the PUNS list to complete a person-centered plan and meet with them and provide case management. So it's kind of a unique service in that, not a lot of counties in the state of Illinois have a disabilities board for funding. So we really tried to mirror the state process. So that way, once they're selected from PUNS, they already are familiar with our organization. They've already developed a person-centered plan. So there's a smooth transition into state funded services. And that's really the goal and benefit of the program, I think. So yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have the contacts and with the Champaign County high schools. We really worked a lot over the past 2 years in building those connections. And so our staff are consistently attending IEP meetings from some of the rural schools too, that we really didn't have great contacts with, or just not a lot of communication. And that has really improved. So I think, there would be a loss as far as the streamline of individuals who are graduating high school and then looking for services when they're done.
Thank you, Katie. You've answered my questions. I don't really have any more questions, but does anyone else?
Okay, thank you. Sue, did you want to weigh in on this as a secondary reviewer?
No, I think that was well covered. The only thing I would say is I think that annual survey, as I remember, I'm not sure about this, that we requested is a helpful thing for the board to know what the needs are in Champaign County.
Lynn is giving a thumbs up to that. Thank you, Lynn.
That's my favorite part of it. I know that's probably the lowest cost piece, but we have an annual needs assessment, and that's really something. I'd miss it.
Yeah. Okay. Can we move on? Developmental Services Center, Service Coordination, and Sue, you're the primary on that, and I will back you up.
Okay, this is pretty cut and dry, I think. The request is $435,000 plus some. It's a 0% increase. They serve 280 people who have treatment plans and 36 who don't have treatment plans. There's a lot of service coordination that goes on in the community from different agencies. And I gathered that the distinction here is that DSC provides the coordination for individuals who have more intensive support needs. And other than that, I think it's pretty cut and dried.
Okay, well, I would agree, Sue. I guess my only question is following up with Georgiana, don't you need more money this year? I don't know. You're doing the same amount as last year. And I just want to raise also the question, and maybe this is for Lynn and Kim, are we asking some agencies that are stable in their needs to do more than an annual at this point, or 2 or 3 year request into the future? Or
we could do some 2-year contracts. The DD board has not really utilized that, which you absolutely have the authority to do that. I think that some of the requests here are same as last year because they maybe didn't even spend all of this year. We understand that this was a special year and last year was also a special year. So it might be good to do some 2-year contracts for our own sake, but if there's a chance that the agencies will ask for more money next year, maybe we wouldn't offer 2-year terms to those. So that's a great question, Anne. Something we should think about.
Well, yeah, this is a strange time, so maybe we should continue to do the 1 year, because who knows what the future is going to bring. But I think this is a known program. Would anybody from DSC like to make a brief comment about this service coordination program?
This is Heather Livingston from DSC, and I oversee the service coordination program here. I do think it's a good program, and it's a point of contact. And so the case coordinators here are kind of the ones that keep everything in line with the paperwork and the process going for each individual that receives services from here. So I do think it's important.
Okay. All right.
On the cost, that's exactly the point. There's a surplus in several programs because of transportation and cost for reimbursements and other things related to COVID, and that is why we left it the same.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. Piatt County again. Our Piatt County friends back with us. I'm the primary reviewer on this, and I must admit that I was a little bit confused about it. I do understand that this is also transportation, and it would be mostly rural transportation for Champaign County residents who are getting services in Piatt County, that this is a new program, and that the pandemic has disrupted absolutely everything. And so a lot of the questions are the same as the other one. Are these, I guess, My question is, are these two programs basically for the same thing, for the same people? This is different people, different transportation needs. So I would ask that question.
I think there's a couple of people that are in both, 3 people between the 2 programs would be overlapping. Otherwise, that would be separate individuals for these programs. I know there was a question, you know, how many were in the CDS program were residing in Champaign County. 23% of our CDS program comes directly from Champaign County. And we've been serving, actually, we've been in Champaign County since 2015. I look back to see when our first person came. So this would be, we acknowledge the fact that with CDS, transportation is provided in the rate. What we would be asking for would be more of the difference. So, you know, providing transportation within Piatt County is going to equal less miles than going, say, clear to Rantoul, which we do for our CDS program. So it would be kind of the difference of what that expense would look like for our agency. The other thing is since we do serve so many individuals in Champaign County, we like to have, you know, return that back into Champaign County and throughout the day with programming, taking individuals to Champaign County. I do an annual report every year, and, you know, there were several, even throughout like prior COVID, there were several times that we did activities within Champaign County throughout the day. So this would be to support that transportation throughout the day. You know, just examples would be, you know, doing things with the U of I, you know, they have like a box-free lunch. We did concerts at Crystal Lake, Wenderson Painting and Mahomet, you know, multiple different times going out to eat, taking individuals into Champaign County and that sort of thing.
Okay. Thank you. I have a couple of other questions. One is, I noted that this application does not include a culture and linguistic competency plan, CLC plan. And you do have an inclusion statement, but is there a CLC plan?
DSC has a agency-wide CLC plan, and so individual programs do not do CLC plans. It's one for the entire agency.
We're not talking about
Right.
DSC.
This is Piatt County. Piatt County.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, I agree with you about DSC. Has Piatt County worked with the CLC plan?
Yes, ma'am. Our apologies. That's a operator error on my part. Yes, we do. We're accredited through CARF for most of our major behavioral health programs, which that is a requirement of the agency overall to have a cultural competency plan. So we do have one in place.
Okay. That just was noted as a deficiency on the application that I reviewed. And then there was a more of a procedural question, and this might be for Kim or Lynn. With the liaison with Champaign County, is there a necessity for Champaign County representation on the Piatt County board, or what is the situation with that? This is more of a legal question.
They could fix it 2 ways. They could have on their regular agency board a resident of Champaign County, or they could set up a Champaign County advisory board. We happen to know 2 people who would be willing to do either. So that's one of the structural problems I was talking about. From our perspective, it might be easy to fix. I don't know what their board policies are, but they would have to have some kind of Champaign County representation.
Yeah.
Also interested in the way, thank you for the description of the additional transportation costs. It strikes me that this is probably an issue all over downstate Illinois, and that the state has to have heard about this problem. So maybe Tony and I could have a conversation offline about advocacy with the state for rates that actually make sense for everything but Chicago.
I think they are looking towards that. There's conversation about doing something about that, but I think that's yet to come. They have a plan for that. It was supposed to kind of start in July, but they backed that up to January. I don't know that that's going to address the total need. I think it's going to help with that. The regulations, we want our individuals that we serve to be integrated into the community. Besides the fact as a rule, we do that anyway, but I mean, we want them actually in their community. So I don't know that they're recognizing that there needs to be some transportation, but I don't know that that transportation cost is going to be per se taking them from outside of Piatt County into Champaign County. It just says community integration, whereas we want them to be back in their environments from where they're at.
Yeah, and I would go back to the original thing, Lynn, that you brought up. Our bylaws here require that board members are residents of Piatt County, but that the advisory team could easily be established and part of our regular agenda. So that's totally doable. And anytime you and I can partner up for advocacy, I'm all in.
All right, thank you. Deb, did you want to make a few comments?
I just had
about
a couple of questions. Thank you, Ann. So going back to the first application that was focused on vocational. So all of the Champaign, how many Champaign residents are you currently supporting in your vocational programming?
The vocational programming. I have this written down, trying to figure. I believe it's right now. I think currently, right now, 2 people.
How many? Say that again.
No, that's not correct. I'm sorry. 3 people, I think, currently right now.
So 3 people are coming from Champaign County. Are they coming from all over the county or one particular area?
They are coming from Mahomet area and Champaign area.
Okay, and those 3 individuals are Medicaid waivered?
No, not all of them are. So our vocational program is not only the Medicaid waiver program, but we also have 2 contracts through DOORS that we give services to individuals. And sometimes those individuals do have waiver funding, sometimes they do not have waiver funding. And then we also have an individual that is private pay that doesn't have. So really it's 3 different sources of income. So it's the waiver, it's private pay, and it's also the DOORS funding.
Okay, thank you for that. But there are 3 people right now for whom you provide transportation from Champaign County to and from Piatt County for day programming of some sort. 3. Okay.
Vocational or day programming? I thought we were talking vocational.
I'm sorry, for vocational training, yes. Which happens during the day, right?
Well, it happens, really their jobs are just like yours and mine. I mean, it's whatever their preference is we don't have job sites. I mean, it's really what they want to do. So it'd be like anybody else trying to find employment in the community. So it could be weekends, it could be evenings, it could be daytime. It's really whatever the scheduled need is.
Are they working? Where are they? They're living there. You told me they're from Mahomet and Champaign. Where do they work?
In Champaign.
In Champaign.
So, yes.
Okay.
Mahomet, McDonald's in Mahomet, the Prairie Winds retirement in or Champaign. That's a fairly new one. The other individual actually does not work in Champaign. He works here in Piatt County. He comes from Champaign to Piatt County, but part of the, our hurdle is trying to broaden the availability of job sites, potentials, I should say, for these individuals. So, transportation is a huge hurdle. they don't always want to work in Piatt County, but most of the people that we serve do not drive with a couple of exceptions. And so they find employment within Piatt County sometimes because of the transportation need.
Okay, thank you. And then for the other program that you've applied for, 23% of those CDS participants are Champaign County residents. Are they all Medicaid waivered?
No, they are not. There are some that are private pay. It's between private pay and waiver services.
Okay.
And so for the private pay, we kind of have a scale that we use depending upon what the abilities are of the individual and how much interaction the staff is going to be needed throughout the day. So there's a scale that we use to support that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, but this application that we're reviewing is for the community day program support, and it is basically for transportation. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, and how many individuals would that be?
23%. So 14 individuals.
14.
Yes.
Total.
Yes. They
Okay.
reside Mahomet, Champaign, Urbana, and Rantoul.
Okay, all over the place.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And these
All right.
and these individuals came to us through about 4 different avenues. Again, Regional Planning Commission, the Champaign County Transition Committee, which I sit on, group residences up there that we've built relationships with, as well as Atlas out of Mahomet. And most all of them have either participated in CDS programming within Champaign County, or they have at least toured. So they kind of have, they usually when individuals come into our program, they are represented by regional planning, and they give them options of different places that they can go, and usually they tour, and then we go from there.
Okay.
Can I ask you to repeat something, because I'm not hearing so well? Did you say there are 14 individuals from Champaign County?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
We have 2 people that are pending, but like if we're talking like current numbers, 14 is what we have right now.
Now, my understanding is, are those individuals being transported right now or not because of COVID?
They are being transported right now.
They are.
Yes.
And what is the means of transportation right now?
It is between our agency staff and Piatt Train.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments for our colleagues in Piatt County?
Well, I do have one more question. Is the Piatt County Mental Health Center just handling people with mental health diagnoses? How do we have these applications that are, we're the DD board, and we're getting applications from the mental health center? Is that just kind of a misnomer?
We are a comprehensive agency, so we have mental health services, but we also have developmental services. So under our developmental services umbrella, we have intermittent SILA, we have home-based, we have respite, we have our day program. We also have vocational services, which isn't entirely under our developmental services, because it's really a vocational disability, not a developmental. But we've been in business for 50 years, and yeah, we've been comprehensive.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay, It is just about 10:30, and I was way overly optimistic how quickly we'd be able to get through these, but I think this discussion is valuable and useful. We can probably do 2 more agency applications today, which leaves us with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 for next week. But some of the discussion may not be as much because we will have done some groundwork. So moving on, Rosecrans Central Illinois Coordination of Services, DD and MI, and Deb, you're the primary.
Okay, thank you. The request for coordination of services from Rosecrans is for $35,150. That there's no change in funding request from last year. They plan to serve 30 individuals who have both a mental health and developmental disabilities diagnosis, primarily through clinical services. They're, in theory, a really great program to support. There's certainly a need for it. There have been some difficulties in implementation of services, mainly because of the kind of continuing, it seems like, vacancy of a clinician. So that is my biggest concern with this program now. And as our reviewers have mentioned, I guess I have a question about something right at the end of the application that in italics, that the program is not robust enough to address the need as stated, and the need that has been brought to our attention as recently as January. I really don't understand what that need was that was brought to our attention in January, so I would like to have an explanation of that. And I guess my other question is there currently a clinician? And if not, how long has this program been without a clinician to provide these services? Yeah,
Lynn?
Sure.
I can't answer the clinician. I can answer the comment. I don't think I wrote the comment because the need we became aware of in January was for mental health services for people with mental health diagnoses and autism. And the presence of autism created an expectation that the DD system would be able to take care of everything, but that's not, the DD system can't serve people who don't have official DD diagnosis according to the state. And autism alone is not it's not enough to qualify for state funding. So we have the impression that there's a great need for people who have mental health diagnosis and autism to have like this kind of good case management support. This is a more hands-on case manager, and maybe does a great job of connecting to other mental health resources. So it's been a successful program when it is staffed, but the turnover is a concern. I don't think the DD board should fund an expansion of this to if on behalf of people who don't have a DD diagnosis, because you have to change your funding guidelines first and change your eligibility process first. I think the mental health board might have an interest in funding something like that. But anyway, that's not, the question that you asked was more for the agency. Is there a current clinician?
Kathy Kessler put it in the chat, but she also let me know yesterday that a staff person has been hired and is expected to start, I believe she said, May 10th.
Thank you. Thank you for that. How long was that program without a clinician? Just in the past, most recent period of time?
I believe left about a month ago, and other case managers at Rosecrans have been covering that caseload.
Okay, thank you.
Kathy says.
Okay, thank you.
Any more comments about the Rosecrans Coordination of Services?
I have just a comment, Deb, if you're done.
I am done. Yes, thank you.
You know, looking at the numbers, so program year 2020, 27 people. This year, program year 2021, in the first 2 quarters, 25 people. So that seems to me to suggest that the need here is going to continue to increase. I understand the discussion that came before this, but I am just worried if either through the Mental Health Board or the Developmental Disabilities Board, if this isn't going to be an area that is going to require, especially after the year of COVID, a lot more funding, and of course that would require more clinician services and availability, and we can't fund until there is that availability. But that number struck me as being worrisome, and in thinking about the future, are we planning on a need for further services over time?
That's a good point, Gail. I know there's been, I guess I need to understand from a workload for staff under the current grant method of funding this program. Is it more difficult to provide the grant money up front and then take it back if it's not all used because there's a lack of a clinician to provide the services? Would it be easier to move this program to more of a fee for service? I know there's been some discussion about that model from a just administrative standpoint.
Is that an open question, Deb?
That's kind of I guess that's a question for Lynn and or Kim.
Do you want to answer it, Kim? Okay. We don't do a lot of fee-for-service contracts because for some services, there are adverse effects, like over-service. For this population, I don't think anyone's complaining about over-service. So, it might be true in other things that you're funding that you don't want to create incentives for just this one thing that's billable to be the only thing the agency does, because we can create, various service categories, but this is case management. This is intensive, like targeted case management. It's kind of, we could create a rate, and then this allows us not to overspend. So our overspending is okay as long as we have lots of funds in the bank. But our fund balance got hit very hard last year by a couple of things, and I'll spare you that today. So for our own discipline, if it's possible to define a fair rate, it would be more favorable to have something on fee for service that allows us not to overspend. Obviously, this is a very, very, very small contract. So this is not going to be a deal breaker. It's just one that could,
Okay, any more comments on this Rosecrans grant? Questions for the agency? All right, it's 10:38. I'm thinking we might be able to actually get 2 more of these discussed, but let's see how it goes. The next 2 are 2 different agencies, but they're doing similar activities. The first is Community Choices, Community Living, and Gail, you're the primary.
All right, so this is a funding request for us of $201,000. This is a program that is serving, it served 36 people in 2020. So far, 19 people in 2021 with just half of the year, and anticipated 30 treatment plan clients and another 15 non-treatment plan clients. So to me, that looks like, you know, a total of 45 people. So it's a program that's building over time. And it seems to be based on that inclusive support that is provided to people at different levels, either in their transitional support or this new component of it, which is sustained community support, which I think it was pointed out to us in the review is a new portion of what is going to be offered as part of this grant, which may explain the significant increase in the funding request that has gone through over time. But that was really the question that I had is, how is it recognized now that this sustained community support is being offered, and is that really the primary cost increase driver in this grant?
Would you like me to speak to that?
Please.
Sure.
Yeah, so the increase in funding request is to hire 2 additional staff people to engage in this new kind of component of the program, which builds off of the previous community transitional support program that we've been running for many years. After talking to families and listening to kind of the needs of the people in the community, these additional supports sort of focusing more on that, like, more classic intensive case management. So that's including like managing people's benefits, helping people with like with their health appointments, that sort of thing, sort of helping coordinate a person's daily life. So this is something that I think we've really noticed is a intensive need of people, in particularly of families, for folks who are trying to sort of create this like patchwork of community involvement within their life. It takes an immense amount of coordination if that individual is not able to engage in that sort of, you know, making appointments, figuring out transportation, scheduling, that kind of thing on their own. Families end up doing that so that their adult person in their life can have that community-based life. But it's our intention to take a bit of that off of the family's plate so that those people can continue to live in the community, continue to engage in all of the different aspects of their community-based life that they would like. So that intensive piece of it is not something that we have been able to offer before with the level of staffing and support that has been included in this program. And so that is a thing that we are working to build, and that we're also working to build, and hopefully we'll be able to fund in additional ways in the future.
Okay,
through the
thank you.
waiver. Yeah.
All right. Sue, did you have comments or questions?
No, I think that explained the increase. I also see where in the summary that there's a area where they're going to have over 2,000 more contacts and hours, about 186% increase in number of hours. So I think that explains a lot of the increase too.
All right, thank you for that. Any more questions or comments about this grant? All right, developmental services, community living. Sue, you're on.
Okay, this again is one of the grants that we funded for a long time. It used to be apartment living, and this is individuals, and I'm looking at the participation that there's not, as I recall, there's not an increase in the budget. So this is pretty much standard serving, anticipated serving, let me look, serving, I'm looking at the number, for 56 participants for this coming year. And again, this is services, especially during COVID. I think this is one of the programs where services are obviously medical, but picking up medications, going grocery shopping. This is, I think, a very important service for the community in terms of people living independently and who have some pretty intensive support needs. I also, my one question would be, and I'm just curious about this, is where most of the individuals that are being served, where they live.
Sure, I can speak to that. Currently, we have our apartment building, of course, in Urbana, that all the members of that apartment building do have a community living specialist. So that is 22 individuals. Then all the others that we provide services to live throughout Champaign County. So we have several across the Champaign-Urbana area that have their own apartment or home. And then we also have some in Mahomet, some in Rantoul, St. Joe. So it's scattered across the county.
So Sarah, it's in addition to your apartment building, DSC's apartment building, you have individuals that live in their own apartments. That's the remainder of them?
That is correct. We do have some live in, possibly a condo that they own or a home that they own independently. And then others do have apartments out in the community.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all I have, Ann.
Okay, any other questions or comments about this program? Okay, well, it's 11:15, so I would like to say we could continue for another 15 minutes, or we could stop early. We've got 11 more to get through, and we've got next week to do it. Can we take 1 minute and decide whether we want to continue now or whether we want to stop now and restart next Wednesday at 9 a.m. And next week, we don't have to do any business.
And
Any
we've gotten
comments?
8 done. We've gotten 8 done today, I think. I'm
We've
counting.
done 8. Yeah,
Okay.
and we've got 11 more to go.
And I have a question. Can our agencies be there at our study session next week so that we can ask them questions?
We asked them to plan to be at both meetings. I know that's not easy for them to set aside the time, but we imagined that this would take you a little while. So hopefully they can do it.
So, yeah, we have DSC and we have Community Choices and we have PACE. Oh, and Head Start. So can those 4 agencies be there next week? Yeah. I'm seeing some nodding of heads.
PACE can be there.
Okay, good.
Well, I want to specifically thank the agency representatives for their dedication and their time to sit through a lot of discussion that has very little to do with what their personal work is. So thank you very much for your time and your attention. Your participation is very valuable for us, so thank you for that. I think I'm just going to take the chair's prerogative and suggest that we leave the 11 for next week, if that's okay with everybody. Are there any objections to that?
No
And I think we've used our time very effectively, and I anticipate that we'll be able to get a good discussion on the rest of the items next week. So thank you very much for that. Moving on, the rest of the meeting is board schedules, CCMHB input. Is there anything, Lynn, that we need to know about CCMHB?
They're doing roughly the same thing tonight. as you've done. And they
Okay.
also have a study session
Okay.
next week.
And staff reports, we thank the staff for their work that they're doing. Any board announcements? All right. I will say we'll adjourn the meeting and we will resume next week at 9 a.m. to continue the discussion. Thank you very much for excellent discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
See you
Thank
next.
you all.
Have a good week.